Hello and welcome to the third episode of the In the Field podcast. My name's Eleanor and I'm joined by Ed, and we are the second years of the BA Sports Journalism course at USW. And this week we'll be talking to Leah Bower, a graduate on the course. So thank you for joining us. Obviously, we were talking a little bit beforehand about this current promotion you're doing at Swansea. Did you want to explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I work in marketing for Swansea City, and before I got this job, didn't really have much of an idea of what marketing kind of looks like, especially within a football club. And there's so many different avenues you can kind of go down with it. There's a lot of, your classic like ticket promotions, but then you'll get thrown a curveball like Snoop Dogg being a minority owner and having loads of avenues to branch off and try and promote that. So at the minute, it's trying to promote ticket sales to people to come and see our games against Bristol and Preston North End next week, and then also trying to check on the fact that Snoop's coming to watch Preston North End as well. So it's complete kind of opposite ends of the scale.
So how do you deal with that, obviously, trying to promote with such a big name compared to obviously how you would normally promote the tickets? Like, how does that promotion look on social media and stuff?
It's very tricky, and it's actually something that internally we're trying to balance, because you want to try and entice your normal season ticket holders, your normal match goers, and typically a Tuesday night game against Preston would be one of the lower capacities that the stadium would see. But against when you bring in Snoop Dogg in, that's a name that it brings people in regardless of what's happening. So we've just had to really lean in on the fact that he's coming, and use his promotion, his work on all of the artwork to go out on social media and put his face everywhere that you can see, just to remind people that come and watch us once play Preston, but also Snoop Dogg's going to be there. So it's trying to hit both markets of people that would come and watch Preston, but also want to come and watch Snoop Dogg.
And you joined Swansea around the time where the sort of Snoop Dogg, Luka Modric kind of thing was materialising. How's that changed the outlook of Swansea, do you think?
It's definitely up the name of Swansea in terms of a global perspective. Um, Especially in America, there's a lot more interest in LA, and Snoop went on the record and said that he saw Swansea very much like his upbringing in Long Beach, I believe. So he saw a lot of similarities when he wanted to come in and take a minority ownership in Swansea. And yeah, so it's just Snoop's just such a big name that you can loads of people know who he is, regardless of age, regardless of gender, and it's such a good way to promote Swansea on a global scale.
And working within marketing, was that something that you thought you were going to go into while at uni? Was it something that kind of just came about and you've realised you enjoyed it?
It was absolutely something that came about. While I was at uni, I thought I'd be doing more of this sort of thing. Like, I loved presenting, and I loved directing, producing, and even just like the written stuff. And it came about just Julie, one of the lecturers, had sent me a job application for Swansea that was in marketing, and we just thought, I'll apply, get my name in there. And we were both just as surprised at each other that I got an interview for it, and I didn't even end up getting that job, and they offered me just a different role in marketing then. So it was a little bit, they knew that I didn't have a background in marketing, and they just wanted me to develop and learn whilst I was there. And it was, honestly, I've surprised myself with how much I enjoy it. And like, I couldn't actually imagine being in a media sort of role, just of how much this fits me. So it's quite weird how it's all come about.
Yeah, and obviously going into marketing straight from uni, it's quite a big sort of jump from what you were doing probably a couple of months prior to that in terms of your internships and stuff. How have you found that change going into something that's quite hands-on, quite full-time, if you like, at a football club?
Yeah, I had a good chat with my boss at the time, and he was really understanding. And like we said, we talked about my previous experience and how I could like start migrating into a different field as well. And probably the biggest crossover would just be the writing side of things. So it was just starting me on like writing tickets on sale things and internal promotions that were going on the club, and I'd be writing those out. So it was just kind of getting me up to speed with how they do things and what they need to go out. So it just started with that, and then it's just kind of sitting in on meetings, learning from other people, learning how you can help other departments, because there's so many different crossovers. And yeah, it's just taking your time and just having that open communication with bosses, and everyone at Swansea has been great and understanding, knowing that I haven't come from a marketing background. So it's been it was a really good transitional period.
Yeah. How was the interview process for a job like that at Swansea?
It was really nice. Like the application process, like I told them, it was the most pain-free application process I had to go through, and like you'll all experience this when you leave university and you'll go into applying for jobs. There's some that are so complicated, and then some that are just easy and pain-free. And I'm grateful that Swansea's was straightforward and simple. And then the interview process, it was really relaxed. They were wanted me to ask questions. They had questions for me, and it's important in interviews just to be open and honest about what you can and can't do, but just say how ready you are to learn. And I think that's what helped me get this role as well.
And moving on to having been at USW for the course, how do you feel like those 3 years prepared you to even be able to have the chance of moving into a different sector compared to what you thought you would come out doing?
I think this course is just we go into so many different areas, we cover so many different things, and I know we covered marketing in some aspect in the second and third year, and it's just this course, it just makes you adaptable, and it just makes you ready to snap into a different role, and you have to be ready to learn new things quite quickly. So I think that's what prepared me the most, and also pushing into different experiences and like different work placements. Like that's one of the things that prepared me the most, just going into different environments and being able to adapt to new groups. So it's just the adaptability of this course and how quickly you have to change within it will just really set you up well in the outside world, regardless of what field you want to go into.
Yeah, take us through a usual day. For example, a Friday, say you get to work around 10 o'clock. Take us through a usual couple of hours in the world of marketing for a football club.
So I'll start with today. So tomorrow is a match day. So I would typically get into work about 9 o'clock, go through the emails and see if anything's come in. So part of my job as well is I'm a floor manager on a match day. So that means that I get given a running order and a schedule. So this as well prepared me really well from university with the TV project. And you had to stick to a running order, you had to stick to the exact timings and follow that. And so on a match day, there'll be all of the advertisements and everything that'll go on the big screen, and you have to follow all of them perfectly. So on the day before a match day, then I'll have that sent over to me, I'll have a look through it, and I'll schedule a call with the team that makes them, which they're a company based in Preston. And I will go through that, make sure everything's in the right place, make sure all the advertisements are ready for the match on a Saturday as well, and make sure all of their edits are ready. So it'll go into a system, I go through all of that and check it. And sometimes there'll be some tickets on sale, things that need to go out, so I'll make sure all of those articles are written and ready to be published. And it's easy to try and say what I typically would do, but especially in a football club, so many different things change. So last night we launched a clothing range in collaboration with Snoop Dogg, so it'll be seeing how those sales have gone, seeing if there's anything else we need to do to push those out a little bit more. And we have a midweek match, so what pushes can we put on getting more tickets out for that? But luckily we're doing quite well in that Preston push, so hopefully just reassess kind of how things go over the weekend. So it's quite tricky to say what a typical day would look like, as I'm sure you can understand, but it's just doing kind of your last minute checks and making sure everything's set up ready for the weekend then, and ready for match days, because it's a quick turnaround then for a Tuesday game as well. So
how important would you say it is to be able to adapt on your feet, especially like with the running order, it goes wrong or you have to completely change your plan? So how important is it just to keep being able to adapt?
So important. There's been multiple times where the timings have gone wrong, and just knowing where you can pull time from and knowing where to add things in, or knowing what you have on reserve to put into a gap. There was an event a couple months ago, I think it was October, we were running like a competition at half time where 2 supporters come onto the pitch and race on the pitch to try and win a holiday to Florida, and our PA announcer started doing other things that were normally in the schedule, and there was just like a mix-up of communications, and we were worried that there wasn't going to be enough time. So it was knowing what to pull back on and how to manage that situation whilst trying to communicate with people the other side of the pitch who didn't have a radio, that we were going to still have time to go over to that. So you've just got to be so adaptable, so ready, and just have confidence in yourself to be able to have that authority to say, no, we need to stop doing this, we need to go, and just kind of have that confidence in yourself that you can pull back on things and back yourself to make the right decision.
Is confidence something you've always had? or is it something that you gained on the course?
The course 100% helped with that. There's confidence in some respect. I've had quite a performing background. I did a lot of music through school and performing and drama things, but it's a different type of confidence when you have to talk and sometimes talk about yourself. And you know, the confidence background that I had in performing, it was often in a different persona and acting and all that kind of stuff. You could pretend to be somebody else, but with this is a lot more raw. It's a lot more, you have to present yourself and present other people's stories as well. So definitely doing things like this and doing the TV shows and podcasts, it just builds up your confidence in speaking, and then that will translate into going into meetings and putting yourself forward in front of different companies and different people. And it's just having that confidence to have conversations, which is surprisingly quite difficult sometimes. It's just having conversations with people that you wouldn't normally get to chat with.
Yeah, and obviously doing that sort of face-to-face talking, sort of stuff like phone calling, I imagine in your job is quite common. These days, is people sort of kind of shy away from doing stuff like that, they'd rather text or they'd rather not meet someone face-to-face. How important do you think being on this course taught you that these sort of skills are still imperative in a job like you're doing now?
They are so important, and something that you can think that you're ready to do them, and then you're actually put in a position where you're in a new situation and you have to go and answer the phone and you realise I actually have no idea what you're asking me here. Yeah. And there's been so many times, and it's just having the confidence to say, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this. Let me ask around. I'll give you a call back. And it's just having the confidence to admit that you don't know something as well. That's a huge part of just learning in life as well. So yeah, it's just having that bit of confidence just to be able to speak to people, and it's so hard sometimes, but it's it's growing up. It's just getting used to different environments as well.
And again, with the different projects we have to do at uni, was we have to get a lot of people from the industry in. Again, would you say that helped? Obviously, you're taking the lead with trying to communicate with people, so is that able being to transfer into your job now?
Yeah, that was a big part of uni, and that used to make me so anxious, just pressing send on the email. And I remember telling Julie, and she'd laugh at me. I'd press send on the email, close my laptop and throw it away, so it's just like I almost don't want to have the rejection from it. And yeah, that it's something you just have to get over it, because you need people to help you. And it's understanding that people are going to say no, people are busy, and just learning not to take that personally. And that still happens in my job now. Like, I'll send emails asking about prices for things, trying to build relationships, and it even goes into asking the players to make appearances for things. So there's been a player Q&A at the Swansea Jack, which is a venue with the club as well, and it was trying to ask the players to come along and meet some of the fans, and knowing that some of them will drop out last minute and say they don't want to do it, and it's all their own personal reasons. They're all fully entitled to not want to do it, and then it's learning to adapt and ask other ones. And it's just then again learning to take the rejection from things and absolutely not taking it personally, because people have lives. But it was a thing that I hated most at the start, of having to reach out to people. It was horrible, but it's one of them, we just got to get over it.
Yeah. Taking it back to prior to your university studies, what was the big pull to come on the sports journalism course here at USW?
The big pull was I wanted to stay in South Wales. Leaving school, when I was 18, I originally went to do music in Liverpool. So that was when I was 18. I didn't really know what I wanted to do as a career. So I went up there. I was only there for 2 weeks, realised I was so not ready to go to university. I went back home to Pembrokeshire, which is where I'm from, and worked. And it then came up to COVID. I was like, no, I want to go back to university. And I was thinking, what do I love most? And it was football was the thing that I loved most. So I literally just Googled like degrees that I can do with football, and then came across sports journalism, Googled sports journalism, and this was the first course that came up. And I was like, perfect, it's Cardiff, it's sports journalism, let's go. And that was the biggest pull, was just, I want this degree, I want to stay in South Wales. And it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, because it's got me to where I am now.
And obviously, we spoke to Freddie, and obviously he's from Cambridge, so obviously he found he wanted to move away. So was there a case of you wanted that like bit of comfort, still being at home, still being able to see your parents and friends every day? Was that something you knew you needed to like get through university?
100%. I'm really close with my family, I'm really close with my friends, and it just so happened that my friends were actually moving back to Cardiff around the same time, so they'd all gone to university, graduated, and then they got jobs in Cardiff. So like I'm still living with them now, so in Cardiff, and it was something that was far enough away from home that I felt like I had moved. But growing up in Pembrokeshire, you realise Cardiff's not that far away, even though it's a 2-hour drive. It's just something you can do back and forth a day if you really have to, because Pembrokeshire's so remote. You often just make that journey without thinking. So it was a no-brainer for me to come to Cardiff.
Yeah, and you talk about obviously going to Liverpool for 2 weeks and then coming home. How was it dealing with that, and how was it sort of admitting to your friends and family that uni was not a thing for you to do at that time?
How difficult was that?
It was really hard, and something that it took a lot of personal work and growth to go through. I didn't go and work straight away. I came back, I think it was end of September, and I went to therapy. I addressed other things that I needed to go through, and I then started working in the January in a local cafe, and that was a great thing for me because that in it alone built my confidence up. I was just so not ready and prepared to go to university, and my family were really, really supportive. They ultimately just wanted me to make the best decision for me. They wanted me to go to university, but ultimately my brothers hadn't gone, and they were like, you do what you want to do, and just they wanted me to be happy, and that's all that mattered. So that's why, again, they encouraged me just to start working and just to start building up life experience in a whole different way. And then when I was ready, they supported me through that as well, which was really great.
Yeah, and obviously now you're involved in marketing at Swansea. What's kind of your plans for the future? Is it to stay in marketing, or is it to look at different sort of avenues in journalism that you've done either on the course or something you want to do?
I think I probably would say I'll stay in marketing now that I'm building a foundation at Swansea, and getting more familiar, and especially just with how things work. It's a whole different world to how a media world works. Like there's a lot of crossovers, but also it's a very different structure and how things are built then. So I think it's almost I've had to learn a whole new language, and if I then had to suddenly go back to media, I feel so lost again. So yeah, I'd like to stick with marketing, and I feel like it's a good blend of everything that I enjoyed from the course. And I think if I can keep the floor manager role going, that's the perfect ounce of like kind of a production director role in a sense. I can follow that and make things happen, and that's a little bit of the media world that I loved so much, especially by the end, that I can keep throughout my my marketing journey as well.
And are you looking to staying at Swansea for as long as possible, or would you be open to other opportunities if they came your way?
I'd like to stay in Swansea as long as I can. My goal was, if I can stay in South Wales for the rest of my life, then I'll stay in South Wales for the rest of my life. Again, like I said, my family are from Pembrokeshire. I'm really close to them, and Swansea's only an hour or so away from that. And I love living in Cardiff, and that's where my friends are. But who knows what happen in the future and what other job opportunities will come up. But definitely, it's impossible to say what will come up. And I've had to reassure my bosses, because they've had instances where they've been assured that, oh no, I won't leave, and then Premier League clubs come in, and it's it's quite funny in the sense of, even in I say backroom and like office jobs in clubs, even when Premier League clubs come, it's hard to say no. So I firmly said to them that I couldn't in good faith work for a different club that I didn't support. And I grew up with my mum's side of the family supporting Swansea, so I have an allegiance to them in some sense. So I would personally find it difficult to work for a different club, and I don't think I'd necessarily enjoy marketing as such if it wasn't in football as well. So that was always my goal, just to work in football.
Yeah, what's been the single toughest challenge you've faced since you've been at Swansea? Do you think one particular occasion that there's been something that's kind of overwhelmed you, if you like?
There's been, I'd say, either recently or before Christmas, there's been a few instances in. So part of my job is arranging photo shoots for clothing ranges and organising those, and you can arrange them and everything can fall into place, and then you go to book the last thing and that doesn't work, so then you have to rearrange everybody else to fit that. So the room you're shooting in, the photographer, when the clothes will be there, the models, and there's so many different avenues that have to collide. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but so many different things that have to work together, and then when one thing falls out, you're like, oh, okay, let's try and move it, and then you're working to a deadline to when the clothes have to come out. and that's overwhelming, and it can be really hard to manage. And something that I learned through uni is that I love to have things under control. I love to have things as much in my control as possible. And when those things don't go well, I just have to kind of sit by myself and just stare at my computer and like, how do I make this work? And then it's just talking to people and just having honest conversations like, look, I'm so sorry, this has come up, are you able to move again? And again, it's just having that confidence to have those conversations and just doing your best ultimately at the end of the day, but also trying to get everything done. And there's so many things that can be overwhelming. And I'd probably say my first match day when I had to be floor manager by myself, it was actually the Nottingham Forest Carabao Cup fixture. That was my first game where I was floor manager by myself, and I'd only been at the club for a month. And yeah, that was really quite overwhelming and intimidating, but you kind of just have to lock in and then process it later. And yeah, that was just an unbelievable experience. Last minute winners are always fun. So, but yeah, there's been fun overwhelming things and not so fun overwhelming things. So, but that's life and that's jobs.
Would you say sometimes the stress actually helps you to get it done, or does it sometimes can hinder you because it's another thing you need to worry about?
I think there's a healthy balance of both. Sometimes stress can be like almost paralyzing in the sense like I almost don't want to touch it because I know how stressful it's going to be to try and manage it. But then it's just going to be 10 times stressful the more you leave it. So it's almost it can kind of stop you in your tracks, but then you kind of need to use whatever stress you have in that moment to fuel just getting it done, so it's over and done with and you can move on to the next thing, because otherwise it'll all just build up and then it'll be an absolute overwhelming pile of stress that will just stop you doing anything. So again, it's a little bit of both.
Final question. What would be your sort of top 3 tips for someone who's looking to do a degree in university as a whole, but in particular something to do with sports or sports journalism? What would be your top 3 tips for them?
Make as many friends as you can within your course, because you're going to need them so much, especially in a course like this one. Build as many relationships as you can within the course, because like I said, you'll need them, and you'll need them to help you. They'll need you to help them, and just the better relationships you have, the easier the transitions for so many things will be. Stick to your deadlines. It's so stressful when you leave everything to the last minute, and it's one of those things that everyone tells you, don't leave everything to the last minute, and you're like, no, I won't, it'll be fine. You end up leaving it to the last minute, and like I said, it's the stress, it's everything builds up. And I often think, like, what could I have done with certain grades? I came out of uni really, really happy with my grades, but I often think back and like, if I'd have given myself an extra week, an extra 2 weeks, what could I have actually come out with? And it's questions like that. You don't want to be asking yourself those questions, so it's just give yourself as much time as you can, especially when it comes to booking people to do your TV shows, and your booking interviews to like fuel your dissertation projects and things like that. So it's just give yourself as much time as you can. And then the third one is throw yourself into any placement that you can get. Even if you think it's not attainable, what's the harm in asking someone? Like, the worst they could say is no. Like, I asked my boss, why did you give me this job? Because I don't have any background in marketing really. And he said it was because of the placements that I went on. He saw that I took myself up to Liverpool. I worked with Redmen TV, and I just asked them, and he was like, the fact that I put myself out of South Wales and I travelled and I made such a big effort to go and get the placement that I wanted, he was like, it just showed like a great drive from me, and the fact that I got what I wanted and I worked for it. So you don't realise the little decisions that you can make in uni will actually have such a big impact on your future, and just throwing yourself into anything that you can, and just ask.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've been the In the Field podcast, and join us next week with another guest.